Well, welcome back, everybody, to Talking Everything Bible. Today, we're going to go into chapter 9 of First Samuel, and I'll do a quick recap of chapter 8. And at chapter 8 simply saw as uh, the people of Israel came to Samuel and started to demand a king like all the other countries had. The main point of chapter 8 was that it was God's intention all along to give Israel a king, all the way back to Deuteronomy. But the king God wanted to give Israel was the Redeemer, Jesus, and not a human king. But they did not have the patience to wait for that and wanted a human king like all the other countries. And so God through Samuel, pointed out to them what a human king would mean, after reminding them what the king he has in mind would be, gracious to the people, loving the people, um, lifting the people up, protecting them. That was what the king he intended, but he warns them that if they want a human king, they can have it, but he's going to burden them. He's going to enslave them. He's going to tax them. He's going to, take their land, take their family, take their servants, and all for himself to enrich himself. And of course, we see that in many of the kings to come. And so they're warned about that, but they still insist uh, of wanting a king because Samuel was old and his sons were corrupt, and they didn't want to be led by his sons, which was understandable. But nevertheless, God told Samuel, let him have a king. They want a king, give him a king. So that's where we kind of land today, is then Samuel tells all the people of Israel to go back to their own homes and just wait. And that's where we'll begin. So, as an introduction to chapter 9, the way in which chapter 9 begins is similar to the way the book of Samuel as a whole begins. An important individual is introduced, his genealogy is given, followed by the introduction of a person who will become a key character in the ensuing narrative. In 1 Samuel chapter 1, the important man was Elkanah, and the key character was Hannah. In the present chapter, the important man is Kish, and the key character is Saul. Moreover, as the seemingly everyday story of Hannah would eventually lead to a major change in Israel's leadership, so too the seemingly mundane account of Saul's search for some lost livestock will lead to a major change in Israel's political future. By a series of seeming coincidences, Saul comes into contact with Samuel, whom Yahweh has prepared to fulfill the mandate that was given in 1 Samuel 8:22 by Yahweh himself, saying, give them their king.
Okay.
Yeah. Chapter 9, verses 1 and 2.
And 2. There was a Benjamite, a man of standing, whose name was Kish, son of Abiel, the son of Zeror, the son of Becheroth, the son of Aphiah of Benjamin. Kish had a son named Saul, as handsome a young man as could be found anywhere in Israel, and he was a head taller than anyone else.
Okay. So in several respects, Saul is a good candidate to become king that the people asked for in the preceding chapter. Saul's home is relatively insignificant in the tribe of Benjamin. This is advantageous because his tribal affiliation will be unlikely to provoke rivalry between the more powerful tribes, such as Ephraim to the north and Judah to the south. His impressive physical appearance is also an asset. Saul is as handsome a young man as could be found anywhere in Israel, and he was taller than everyone else. The significance of this point will become clear as the narrative unfolds. Most notable in Saul's introduction is the lack of any mention of qualities beyond the physical. Saul's traits and abilities are not even noted. And the comment, Yahweh was with him, a common feature in the introduction of Israel leaders, is lacking in this introduction.
You know, it seems as though the Lord was saying that, you know, the Israelites were all about appearance because they were looking at what the other people had. And it seems like the Lord says, okay, I'll give you a king, and he's going to even look like a king. He's going to be taller than everyone else. He's going to be handsome. But it seems as though, and maybe that's why perhaps he really doesn't say much else in here about him, like they did with Samuel, because they asked for appearance, and that's what he gave them.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Linda?
a thought.
Yeah. Linda?
Immediately what came to my mind, man looks on the outward appearance. in exactly what Miss Peggy's talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think God is making a point here. He's giving them what they want to the extreme. He's showing them, okay, I'm going to give you exactly what you're asking for. A handsome guy, strong, tall, a leader, you know, and we'll pick him from a tribe that's kind of a neutral tribe. So, and I'll give you that, but, you know, yet he's not going to be what you really want. And I think that's the point. Yeah. Yolanda.
This is a serious threat, but something about going back to chapter 8, when the Israelites are insisting on, give us a king, all the way to the not so much the outward appearance, but choosing, although Saul is God's appointed one, but just choosing a choice that seems obvious that isn't. Somehow it takes me to Pilate, where he's telling them to choose between Jesus and Barabbas. I know it's a stretch, but I see some parallels there. Not entirely, but I do see some parallels there.
Yeah. What the human choice over God's choice is the parallel. Yeah. Okay, Ezra, would you read 3 through 10, actually?
Now the donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, had wandered off. So Kish said to his son Saul, "Now take with you one of the servants and arise, go search for the donkeys." So he passed through the hill country of Ephraim and passed through the land of Shalisha, but they did not find them. Then they passed through the land of Shalim, but they were not there. Then he passed through the land of the Benjamites, but they did not find them. When they came to the land of Zuph, Saul said to his servants who was with him, "Come and let's return, or else my father will stop being concerned about the donkeys and will become anxious about us." But he said to them, "Behold, now there is a man of God in this city, and the man is held in honor. Everything that he says definitely comes true. Now let's go there. Perhaps he can tell us about our journey on which we have set out." Then Saul said to his servant, "But look, if we go, what shall we bring the man? For the bread is gone from our sacks, and there is no gift to bring to the man of God. What do we have?" The servant answered Saul and said, "Look, I have in my hand a fourth of a shekel of silver. I will give it to the man of God, and he will tell us our way." previously in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, he used to say, "Come and let's go to the seer, for he is called a prophet now was previously called a seer." Then Saul said to his servant, "Good idea, come, let's go." So they went to the city where the man of God was.
The route of Saul's travels in search of his father's lost donkeys is difficult to determine, as the sites mentioned in verse 4 are of uncertain location. We're told that he passed through the hill country of Ephraim to the north before returning to the territory of Benjamin, but to no avail. When Saul and his servants had taken along with him in accordance to his father's instruction, reached the district of Zuph, Saul is ready to abandon the quest and return home, more worried about his father than about his father's livestock. The servants, however, knows that in this unnamed town there is an unnamed man of God. Lack of specificity at this point in the narrative has led some to speculate that a tale of an obscure village seer has been invented to create a story about Samuel, who is first named in verse 14. It seems more likely, however, that the seer identities purposely was held in order to allow the reader to share in Saul's process of discovery. Long before Saul sorts things out, the attentive reader will be suspecting that the man of God in question is, of course, Samuel. After all, Saul finds himself in the district of Zuph, and Samuel is the son of a Zuphonite. This man of God is highly respected and is reliable. Everything he says comes true. The reader knows already that Samuel is a highly respected, recognized from Dan to Beersheba as a prophet of the Lord. In the answer of Paul's concern that they have no gift to take to the man, the servant offers to finance the inquiry with a quarter of a shekel. The narrative aside in verse 9 reminds the reader that the seer and prophets are synonymous titles, thus further tightening the association of the seer with the prophet of Samuel. Saul's initial hesitancy is soon overcome by the servant's initiative, and he agrees to set out for the town and meet the man of God, which the reader will not by now, of course, guess must be the town of Ramah and the man of God, Samuel. Jim, would you read 11 through 14?
As they were going up the hill to the town, they met some girls coming out to draw water, and they asked them, "Is the seer here?" "He is," they answered. "He's ahead of you. Hurry now. He has just come to our town today, for the people have sacrificed at the high place. As soon as you enter the town, you will find him before he goes up to the high place to eat. The people will not begin eating until he comes, because he must bless the sacrifice. Afterward, those who are invited will eat. Go up now. You should find him about this time." They went up to the town, and as they were entering it, there was Samuel coming toward them on his way up to the high place.
This description definitely gives more of a clue that they knew exactly who they were dealing with, Verse 11 does not specify whether it was Saul or his servants, or both, who asked the young women coming out to draw water regarding the seer's whereabouts. But the young women responded excitedly in verse 12 through 13, encountering a tall and handsome stranger at the well, a typical venue for betrothals. The women became animated, and their words sometimes lack syntactical correctness in their rush to help Saul. The awkward syntax of the girls in the Hebrew is largely masked in the English translation. So they were kind of overcome by Samuel, according to the commentator. In the Hebrew language, they were more overcome by Samuel's good looks. And they were kind of gushing all over him. Their first words suggest multiple speakers interrupting each other. There is, look, before you, hurry, now. These words are all intermixed in the Hebrew because today he has come to the city. Their last words convey the same sense of excitement. Verse 13 contains an awkward doubling of the direct object him, yielding for him, just now you will find him. The women tell Saul that the seer has just arrived to preside over a sacrifice at the high place. They also tell him where and when he will meet Saul, that he will meet Samuel. As soon as you enter the town, you will find him. And as Saul and his servants entered the city, there was Samuel coming towards them. What the reader has likely already concluded from the various clues earlier in the narrative is now explicitly confirmed. The man of God, the seer, the prophet, is indeed Samuel. Of course, we knew that.
I'm just making a comparison to with David, or actually David's the only one I can think of. Oh, actually the other kings too. The fact that he had no, I want to say, spiritual or godly direction to Samuel. Like with David, God had interactions with him already. Like even Solomon, even some other kings. But with Saul, it's clear here that this is God allowing the people to have the people's choice, and for him, I feel like he's more hands off. He didn't go before Samuel. He didn't, but here the writer specifically made no mention. Like I think the fact that we're speculating whether Saul knows God or not, or Samuel, it's making it a bit more clear to me that it's like there's no connection to God with Saul at all before his anointing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point you make there, because I think that's a little bit why the purpose for this narrative is to show you why was Saul seeking out Samuel? To find out where the donkeys are.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Okay, that's why Saul is seeking out Samuel, not because he's some
Just know how your purpose.
spiritual leader. It's because they think he's a seer or a prophet that can tell them where these silly donkeys are. That's the whole reason they go to him. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's basically to help his need, nothing big picture. Unlike David, there was a big picture. With Solomon, there was a big picture. Even Jehoshaphat, there was a big picture. Even Jeroboam, there was a big picture. But not Saul.
Yeah. He was just watching out for his ass. Yolanda.
I think we see that played out. I mean, we will see that played out in the way that Saul behaves, even going into battle, and even when he's contending with Samuel later. He, if I recall correctly, he often refers to the Lord as the Lord your God. And like it, I think this is just the beginning, but we I think that we will see that same thing played out, that he doesn't seem to have a close relationship with God.
Yeah, not spoilers aside, when we get into chapter 10 and 11, and you will see that Saul never interacts with God at all. He interacts with Samuel, expecting Samuel to relate to God for him. Even when he's king, he relies on Samuel for his relationship with God. He never has a personal relationship. And when he tries, he really messes up. So spoiler alert there. All right, Peggy, would you read 15 through 17, please?
Okay. Now, the day before Saul came, the Lord had revealed this to Samuel. About this time tomorrow, I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin. Anoint him leader over my people Israel. He will deliver my people from the land of the Philistines. I have looked upon my people, for their cry has reached me. When Samuel caught sight of Saul, the Lord said to him, "This is the man I spoke to you about. He will govern my people." 18 too, or keep?
No, just that's good.
Okay.
Before recounting Saul's response to meeting Samuel, the narrator just digresses to provide necessary background information. Clearly, Saul's travel have to do with more than a lost donkey. The day before Saul arrives, the Lord has revealed to Samuel that he was sending a man from the land of Benjamin, whom Samuel was to anoint as ruler over my people Israel. The title Negid can be used to officials in general, but when relating to kingship, it seems to mean something like king designate. The task of the king designate, whom Samuel is to anoint, will be to deliver the people from the hand of the Philistines. As Samuel the seer sees Saul, Yahweh confirms that to Samuel that Saul is the one who will govern the people. By the way, the word seer in here is interchangeable with the word prophet in Hebrew. So don't get thrown off by that term. The word rendered govern is not one of the common words for ruling. The word used here to govern is the Hebrew word asar, which normally has connotations of restraining, holding back, hindering, and so on. Thus, its sense in the present context is ambiguous. Positive readings are possible. Perhaps Saul's task is to reign in the people, or to muster them in order to fight the Philistines, or to restrain Israel from becoming a nation. But the negative reading is also possible. Might there be a hint that Saul will, for a time, hinder Israel from realizing the kind of kingship they need, the kind that will eventually come under David? Whether positive or negative nuances echoed in the use of the word govern, Saul will not in fact reign until he ascends to the throne down in chapter 13. So what the commentator is saying here is in the Hebrew language, when God speaks to Samuel about Saul, he is not using the language that Saul is yet to become a full-blown king. He uses very specific. He's to govern, and the word they use is, but only in the sense of winning a victory over the Philistines, not in the sense of ruling the people of Israel. So he's limiting the scope of Saul here. And it's why God uses Saul in this, because Saul will use this to his own benefit down the line. Why God does this may become apparent later on. Any guesses or thoughts?
Maybe to show his that the king that they asked for is very limited in what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this comparison of like, well, God was doing so much for you, but this king can only do this one thing or these things, but God can do everything.
Yeah, we will see that even with the little Saul, he's given a little bit at the beginning, and he immediately messes it up. So you can see why God, Samuel's going to be treading carefully here. Yeah. Yolanda?
I think I didn't catch the significance of that before, so thank you for sharing that. But as I read it now, I read it as in the English, of course, that Saul, or he says Saul will rule over my people, but he doesn't say he will lead my people. He just says he will rule over, which actually has a little bit of a negative connotation, much like what the Lord told the people they would experience with an earthly king. Just then Saul approached Samuel at the gateway and asked, "Can you please tell me where the seer's house is?" "I am the seer," Samuel replied. "Go up to the place of worship ahead of me. We will eat there together, and in the morning I'll tell you what you want to know and send you on your way. And don't worry about those donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, for they have been found. And I am here to tell you that you and your family are the focus of all Israel's hopes."
Wow. How'd you like to be told that? Not only will you find your god donkeys, but you're going to change Israel. Yeah. The first meeting between Saul and Samuel does not mark an auspicious beginning. Saul's servant has had to take the lead to get Saul this far. Interesting to point that out, that had it been up to Saul, this would have never happened. It was his servants that encouraged him to go there. More, however, having been explicitly told by the young woman at the well where and when to expect to meet Samuel, Saul nevertheless fails to deduce that the man before him in the gateway is Samuel, and instead asks if he knows where the seer's house is. Saul's ability to listen and understand is called into question. "Samuel, I am the seer," is followed immediately by an instruction that shows that Samuel has been expected. Samuel's credibility as a prophet is confirmed by his knowledge not only of Saul's quest for the lost donkey, but also of their successful recovery. Livestock worries aside, Samuel turns to a more important issue, and to whom all the desire of Israel turned, if not to you. Tim, would you read 21 through 24?
Saul answered, "But am I not a Benjamite from the smallest tribe of Israel? And is not my clan the least of all the clans of the tribe of Benjamin? Why do you say such a thing to me?" Then Samuel brought Saul and his servant into the hall and seated them at the head of those who were invited, about 30 in number. Samuel said to the cook, "Bring the piece of meat I gave you, the one I told you to lay aside." So the cook took up the thigh with what was on it and set it in front of Saul. Samuel said, "Here is what has been kept for you. Eat, because it was set aside for you for this occasion for the time I said. I have invited guests," and Saul dined with Samuel that day.
Saul's protestations of smallness, not only from the smallest tribe of Israel, but from the least of its clans, are not met with words but actions. Samuel seats Saul and his servants at the head of the prearranged meal and has the prearranged special portion of meat set before Saul. The rather full description of Samuel's preparation is testimony to the momentous and providential ordering of this occasion. The events of the day may have come as a surprise to Saul, but not to Samuel, nor, one might imagine, to those who had presented Israel's request for a king, such as all the other nations had. Saul's status is about to change, and Saul dines with Samuel that day. Throughout the story so far, Saul has voiced misgivings and hesitations. The story has moved forward by the servants' initiatives, then Samuel's, and behind it all, you can see divine providence. Saul is almost a behind-the-scenes character here, isn't he? He's kind of being moved along by servants, by Samuel. He doesn't have a lot to say for himself except, "Are you sure about this? You know, I'm from the smallest tribe, and I'm the least in this tribe." And it tries humility.
Like you said, Saul is more of a pawn here.
Yeah,
He's like a chaff being blown left and right. He has no directive. It's the servants Saul and Samuel, and God telling Samuel. He has no purpose except a pawn being, yes, almost like, how sure God would use the kings outside of Israel to use them for a purpose. And Saul likewise is just a king used for a purpose, but no connection to God whatsoever. Not, sure, he's the first one that's called anointed because he is the first king, but he's not chosen by God.
okay, and I'll go ahead and read 25 through 27. I believe that's, yeah. After they came down from the high places to the town, Samuel talked to Saul on the roof of his house. They rose about daybreak, and Samuel called to Saul on the roof, "Get ready, and I will send you on your way." Then Saul got ready, and he and Samuel went outside together. As they were going down to the edge of town, Samuel said to Saul, "Tell the servants to go on ahead of us." And the servants did so. "But you stay here for a while, so I may give you a message from God." The first time we make the connection between Saul and God here. While the flat-roofed architecture of the house in the period makes it possible that when Samuel and Saul had returned to the town from the high places, Samuel talked to Saul on the roof of his house. Whatever unrecorded conversation may or may not have taken place between Samuel and Saul the night before, the time has come for Samuel to deliver a message from God to Saul, but only after the servant has been sent ahead. The purpose of the secrecy is not stated explicitly. The dismissal of the servants, however, suggests a different or perhaps additional reason for the anointing being conducted in private. Given the servant's proactive role in the preceding story, where was he, not Saul, who tended to initiate forward progress? Samuel's concern may be to test Saul's suitability to step into a leadership role. Will he respond appropriately, even without the help of his servant? Chapter 10 will go into the anointing itself. We will leave it there.
No, I think what's kind of interesting is that up until this point, the Lord has not spoken to Saul
No,
at
and he
all.
does not. And he does not. Only through Samuel. All right. If you're watching the blog right now, stay tuned for the end credits to find out more information about when we will return. See you then. Bye-bye.